Okay, my friends, this is going to be another one of these shockers. This is where the pyramids are, just outside of the Nile River. Now, what if I said, instead of taking a lot of work to build the pyramids were built from the top down, and the weight of the things coming down was used to do work. And here's what I got. Here's how the pyramids were built. If they were straight up like this originally, and all these little blocks were little tiny blocks, all built by themselves automatically, because it was a creature. It was a giant creature. And all of these blocks were all by themselves. And we could put them on these, and all the weight going down would drive a pulley and do some work and pump water, whatever. And they were little tiny blocks, because you could see them. And I'll show you that because I can prove it, basically. Okay, my friends, remember this. There's the pyramids right outside of the Nile River. Okay, this is an ancient map, and this shows the pyramids over here, right outside the Nile River. See? Nellis Fliv. Now, what do they look like? They're on top of trees. They look like they're on top of trees. What's that all about? Well, I think I understand what it's all about. They didn't realize these weren't trees. These were other features, but they had all of these little blocks. You see how they're showing little blocks, and they look like they're on top of trees? And then they're showing this river system coming in. Let me show you something. Okay, so I said to myself, Roger, what would you do if you had a big structure like this, a huge big structure, and you wanted to do some work? Well, you could take these huge, big, heavy-duty rocks, they're big, and put them on conveyor belts, basically, and run that conveyor belt by the weight of the rocks, and have a drive pulley at the bottom to pump water, do whatever you wanted with it. Think of how much work you could do with this much weight. And originally you'd have them coming straight down. It'd be almost tons of power. And then eventually they'd be coming in, but they'd still be a ton of power going out. So the facing plates here that were made over the top of all these little bumpy spots were made out of concrete, literally concrete. And I can show you this. It's very obvious. Brian Forrester has shown this. He didn't realize what he was showing, but he was showing that. Now this is biological. Oh, come on, Roger, that can't be biological. Well, maybe it can, maybe it can't. What's this black one doing there? And what are these little holes doing here? I've told you over and over and over and over that veins turn black and plug up and get solid. Arteries are red, and they leave holes because they purge out because there's no clamps in them. Now remember all these tiny little blocks and how I say we could use them. Okay, this is biological tissue, and I say that this is what the feet are made of. And I mean the pyramids were made of, and they were little blood vessels coming up. You see the different colored blocks here? I don't know whether they stained this or not, but all these different blocks will have a little different chemistry. You know, they'll come and they'll go. Some of them be the same here as they are over here. Some of them be the same here as they are over here. But that's the interplay of these. They're not all homogeneous looking, same exact colored blocks. However, there is fluid flowing through them to nurture them. And everything in your body is nurtured with bodily fluids, blood and all that. Now, this is what I'm saying. They took these, originally it was a straight up pyramid like this, or a straight up foot, and there's a flat top, breaks flat as a pancake. And that's why you see all these flat plateaus. That's what they were. And that's because that's the abrupt transition between tendon and muscle, basically. Now, let's look at where that came from. Okay, in a nutshell, this originally was a foot. I'm going to show you, I'm sure I'm going to show you many instances that I can explain it. And originally, all of these little blocks were tendon fibers. And that's why the black one there is the That's the vein, and they just turn black because they have clamps. They don't purge out, and that's the O2 style oxygen, and that's the holes are where the vein was. They usually go right together, and the vein, the artery. I'm sorry, did I say vein? These are the arteries. The ones that purge out are the arteries because there's no clamps to hold them. They just drain out. The black ones, though, they don't because they have clamps because the veins is never supposed to go backwards in your body. Now, I'm saying that was a foot. And either I showed you or I will show you in great detail they were going to be like this. Now, what I would do is take those blocks and put them on a conveyor belt to drive a pulley. And you could go down with them. As eventually they're going to be on this angle, but originally when you start they're going to go straight up and down. But they're going to be a hell of a lot of, think of how heavy these are and how many there are and how much work you could do. Plus, the guys coming up, they just grab onto here and they come back up, throw their tools on and their beer and all that stuff, and up they go, and the rocks come down. And in the meantime, this drives water pulleys or whatever you want to do, drive saws or whatever you want to do. I'm telling you, there is a ton of work could be done with the weight of those blocks coming down that enormous amount of distance. The drive potential is astronomical. So instead of having all of these work done to make these blocks come up, they took the blocks down. All right, this I wrote a long time ago. This was about this. The artery and the veins run up through the center of the foot, which was originally the foot, and then they stripped it down to make a pyramid. Now, underneath, there's all these little balls that attach to every one of those fibers has a little ball. Hold on, I have one here. All right, every one of those fibers has a ball like that. A little fiber comes out of it, and they anchor in the ground or in your body. They're anchored somewhere, and then there's a little fiber comes out, allows you to do this. But there's in your body, there's literally thousands and thousands of them. And then they have inside, they wrap, the fiber wraps around. I mean, it's a tight investment into your body. They don't come out. They break, and that's called an abrupt transition. And on your heels and so forth, your ankles, the Achilles heel, you get abrupt transition. Abrupt transitions are where tendons lock into bone and muscle and all that stuff. So anyway, I've shown this a million times. This is literally the heel of the foot. And there's a bazillion of these little balls in there because every fiber, and you saw how many fibers there are bazillions of them. This is what it originally started out like. Now, let me just see, these are notes I put a while ago. Pyramids show they were built on plateaus, and I showed you that. I'll show you it again just so we don't miss it. That was the Giza pyramid on the old maps. Now the canal to the Nile from the pyramids is shown. Now whether they use it to pump water, I have no idea. You would use this as a gravity brake used and turn it into power. So it's a gravity, and then you just drive whatever you wanted with it. Drive transmission like water wheels, factories, whatever you wanted, water pumps, generators, elevators. Now, the pyramids were built from the top down. They were built from the top down, as far as I could tell. Now let's take a look at some of the anatomy that shows these tendon balls and how they turn into that. You see that? That's a tendon ball. I call them tendon balls. They're what they call tendon anthesis. And there's a ball, and they're stuck in your body somewhere, and then there's a fiber coming out of it that's this fiber. And that fiber runs to pull your arm or your fingers or whatever it does. Tendons are under tension. They're tight, they're hard, they're tough. And this is what locks them in. Otherwise they just pull right out of you. And they break here when they break, just like that broke right there when it broke. All right, it's hard to tell which type of a tendon emplacement it is, but I would say it's probably a foot. And at any rate, there's going to be the balls at the bottom and then fibers coming up. And that's what we see. Now let me show you the pregnant lady stone. Now I just showed you what tendons look like in the body, and this is what they look like. Here's what they do. They come down. This is the big tendon bundle. Then they break into like chunks, and they keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and tinier tiny fibrils. And these are the fibrils right here. And then eventually they go into the ball down wherever that fibril locks into, and then so that everything can push and pull according to this. Now there's just enough give in a tendon to make it not snap normally. You can snap tendons, and boy, they hurt like hell when they snap. I can tell you, it happened to me. Now, these are those little fibers I showed you, and every one of these will have a ball on the end. I mean, this is stunning stuff. It's absolutely insane, but it's true. Now, the other one was a different type of a tendon. And there's square ones, and there's these kind. And it depends on where it is in the body. Now let me show you the pregnant lady stone, because that is the same type tendon. It's just crazy, but it's true. All right, these are the Baalbek stones. What we have to do is look at these tiny little holes in the end of these fibrils, because those are tendon fibrils. Now, this is the pregnant lady stone right here. All right, that's one of those fibers. This is just what I showed you. It's exactly identical to this fiber. And when you see all this red and the black running off them, that's blood. And at the end, if you can see the tip, if I can find a good shot of the end of the pregnant lady stone, you can see all the red and here it is right here. You see that? These are the kind of little holes that we're talking about that run down. And when they solidify in the right way, they open up and create those little tiny channels. And the red and the black is blood. And they just came in blocks. And there was, and they separate right off. And I can't find the things right now, but, well, maybe one's right there. Hold on. These are all tendon blocks. They're all over the place here. Just exactly what I'm showing you. Instead of the guy standing up, he died laying over. I mean, that's just what it was. I know it sounds insane, incredibly insane. I don't disagree with that, but it is true. All right, you see this right here? This is in my shop, and this is a tendon assembly, and this is the glue. Now, something I want you to pay extremely close attention to. You see this little jobber right here, and this right here, and here? This is the glue. It's literally glue that glues these blocks. And they are square little blocks. And that is exactly identical to the pregnant lady stone. And if you go at Baalbek and you look and you see their videos they have these little steps as well. Where the blocks had made it up, they're just broken away, and they just carried them off. They didn't cut them and do all that. These are split all by themselves as a split. They are separated from fascia. Fascia and what they call a synovial sheath keeps each tendon in its place. This is the glue. Now wait till you see this. This is absolutely stunning, I believe. Now let me shut off the sound, and I'm just going to play this forward. This, I'm looking and showing this. This is the glue. Now, this from here to here is glue, and it is the toughest stuff that's ever been made on the face of the planet. Now, look at this little hook right here, and there'll be another one, and there'll be another one. That's the muscle attaching to the glue, attaching to the tendon. That is the assembly. Muscle, glue, tendon. And I will show you these on the face of the earth, and they'll freak you out. Because it's, wait, I'll show you. And sometimes they're square, and sometimes they're those, like, octagonal looking things. The ones that I showed you in that big flat mat. I'm not sure why yet. I haven't 100% figured it out, but it's related to where it is in the body. Some tendons are flat mats, some are bundles. There's a variety of different ones, but this is a flat block, and I'm not sure where it came out of. I think it was a shoulder. I got to be honest with you, because I think I figured out this whole thing is one big shoulder, and that's the glue. And here's the muscle. Now let's come up the muscle. I'm going to come up and we'll see the muscle coming this way. See that? That's the glue. Now here's the muscle. Let's see if I can get a good clean shot of this. You see it wrapping right around here? And this one, the same thing, wraps around. And this one, the same. That's wrapping into that glue. And it is tough. It is tough. And then we're going to see the abrupt transitions. And there's like 3 or 4. All right. So here, this is a good shot. You see that wrap around? That's the muscle fiber wraps right around. I don't even know if they know this, how muscles really do attach. I imagine they do, but I'm not sure. I found things in mud fossils they never knew about. Interstition is something that is fluid-filled bags. They've never seen it before until just a few years ago because of my research. I saw it, and I got contacted the top fascia guy in the world. And he was the only one that was really looking into it, to be perfectly honest with you. Nobody else knew anything about it. Gil Headley was the guy. And I worked with him, oh boy, it's got to be 7, 8 years ago. And it ended up being these fluid-filled bags that were in there. And they just did a paper on it a couple of years ago saying a new organ system in the body was found called interstition. And that's what we had found. And this is the abrupt transition. There's one there, I think. See how it sort of scales off. This is mineralized. See it right there? I'm focusing in and out. And we're going to come out this way. You're going to see a lot of white mineralization in the beginning. There's a better shot of the abrupt. And there'll be another abrupt coming up, which is real obvious. See this one right there? That's extremely obvious abrupt transition. This is the blood that feeds this. These are the muscles. So don't tell me these gigantic things are not real. The ones I showed you in the beginning were the pregnant lady stones. That is, let's go look at the pregnant lady stone. And don't forget the step. That's critical. Okay, I believe these were feet, not trees. They think they were trees, and they saw the pyramids were built out of these and figured they just chopped down the trees basically to make the pyramids, took the pieces off like I'm saying they did, only they thought they were trees. I say no, they were tendons, and every one of those fibers is easily seen. And I understand the anatomy, and this could easily be proven now, looked at with a new set of eyes. Alright, this is from a video I did. These are the balls, and the way they develop, they create this center core that's in there, and then the fibers come out through the top, just like I showed you a while ago in the anatomical version. This is tendon where it comes together like in a shoulder or something like that. And these little wrinkles, that's the wrinkle zone, because the tendon is under tension. When you cut it or snap it, bing, it creates a wrinkle zone basically at the place of the cut. Now this is Devil's Postpile. And what do we got here? Devil's Split. Look at the size of this statue, 182 meters. This is 386 meters. Statue of Unity in India. Isn't that amazing? Now, this, again, there's the wrinkle zone. And these are the tendon fibers. Now, there it is again. There's a wrinkle zone. And see the red blood running out? It doesn't run everywhere. There's only a couple of really good, dense spots of red blood, but they all have some tiny little bit. That's what that tiny little fiber. See, there's some more red over here. That's the wrinkle zone. This is where I think the second leg was, over here. One of them, they usually go push way, way, way deep in the ground to push the other leg up because they were in the mud. And all this red is the body eroded away. And I found the ribs and everything. You see all these things? This is all broken away from here. These are all the little chunks have fallen off. Instead of going down on a slide like this, they just fell off. Now what these started out with, I don't know exactly. But I have a lot of people say, oh no, this is a tree. It is not a tree. It is a foot. And here's the back. There's a wrinkle zone. And they break flat as a pancake, just like that. Just like I showed you before. You could see where they made up and stopped. Dead stop. Right where that glue was. I showed this. All I can do is show what I can show. Then you can make your own determination. See, this is a blood and his flesh laying all over here from the guy who fell over. Those aren't erosion or, sedimentary layers. That is blood. And that's why it's so red and, so green over here. Anytime you have red blood, you're going to have fluffy green growth. Look at how green it is right there. I tell this over and over and over. Where the black blood is, you have lichen. You see, this guy died and fell over here. There's all this red blood all over the place. See how green it is? That's red blood. Oh, and then some meatball put this up. These are the roots of corn, and they put this under this devil's tower to say, oh, it's a tree. What's this? Look at the size of these things. This is the top. Now wherever you see the green, you see the green? That's where there was red blood. There was some red blood going down into those tendon fibers. There's going to be tendon fibers everywhere. Why is that growing green here and never those other spots not? You see how the moss is growing on that red blood? There's a red blood spot there too. You see down here all the little spots? Those are little blood vessels. They're all over, see them? You have to really know the anatomy, the chemistry, the biology, the whole shooting match. Anyway, I think I've shown my proof. Okay, all I can say is I have no idea if I'm right or not, but this is my take on this is what I would do. If those were feet and they were full size, wide like that, and I wanted to get those blocks down or I wanted work done, I would start taking them down and letting them do the work. That's what I'm saying. Now, I showed the little holes in them. I showed all the fibers. I showed the black, which is the vein blood. The holes here are for artery blood to feed this complex. These little blocks, I showed you the tissue blocks that are I can't tell you I'm right or not, but I can tell you this is what I would do. And this is sure looks like we got what we got going. And then on the outside, they had actually geopolymer. And it's nothing but it's just basically concrete. And that's how they filled in all of these little nasty spots. All the facing stones are gone now. But Brian Forrester did a video, and I did a video about his video, showing all around the base they had pulled out these stones, and they had filled in all kinds of crevices and cracks, and they were perfectly flat in the front. So they were obviously poured there. I showed it very well, I think. Anyway, we got to look at this with new eyes. And people like Brian Forrester are walking around looking at these things, and he says he just doesn't believe in this stuff. Well, believe it or not, you take a look, start to think. Even like Petra. Let me show you what Petra is. All of this is the same stuff. It was gigantic biology. I'm sorry to have to bring the news to you that is a fact, but it is a fact. And if anybody can dispute it, that's what I want. Let me show you Petra. This is carved out of wet flesh. And these are what are called sarcomeres. You see the blankish looking and the black looking ones? These are all in blocks. They're called sarcomeres, which are muscle fibers. Inside the treasury, you see this? This carries on right through here. Inside the treasury, it's just 100% biology, blood and everything else. They cut these little holes in here to let out the moisture. They carved this when it was wet, like putty. That's how come they're so beautifully done. If anybody can tell me that's not biology, I would love to speak to somebody who is a biologist and have them say, no, that's not biology. And then have somebody come out here and do the chemistry. That's blood vessels. Those are little tiny blood vessels. This is blood. That's red blood. This is mineralization. I showed you in the muscle tissue. I showed you that white stuff, and I said it's highly mineralized in certain places. This is one of those places. Now let me show you what a sarcomere looks like. Don't forget, look carefully. That's one side of the sarcomere, there's the other. When they pull together, that's how muscles work. They pull in and they slide right together. Let me show you. You see that? That's what the sarcomeres are. There was the blackish looking one like this. When they come together, they slide in together. That's how sarcomeres work. These were relaxed sarcomeres that are at Petra. These are engaged sarcomeres. The case has to be reopened with new eyes, Mudfossil eyes, from Mudfossil University. Okay, my friends, I either have or will show you the tendons and how they form and how you get the wrinkle zone and how the little blocks are and how the little fibers are. Now, this is a Achilles heel and Achilles tendon, and they implanted metal and then they put some collagen fiber around it, and this was what it looks like when you have a wrinkle zone. And this is when it starts to refiberize, fibrillate, whatever you want to call it. And they start to stretch back out again and replace this tendon so that you have that just enough spring in there to keep it from ripping apart. And there's very little play in tendons. Muscles are a whole different issue. Tendons are muscles are whoop, 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 whoop. Now, this is what happens. And when they break along, they'll straighten along these lines as I showed you before. I believe, and I'm not 100% certain of what the things I'm saying, but I'm pretty well certain that I am certain that we're talking about feet. And we're talking about biology. And when you see the top of the pyramid, you can see the blood, the black and the empty spots where the red was. And that's bloody biology. That is not trees. That is biology of a living creature. And it was the tendon fibril coming up. Okay, I think I might have shown you this, but this is what I feel was the original pyramids were actually the feet of giant creatures, probably giant human beings. That's what God said, that he flooded the earth to destroy them all. And I can't find any fault with that statement whatsoever. As far as I can tell, there was a gigantic battle on earth here for dominance. And at that point, all these creatures were literally boiled in the oceans. All right, I believe this was the beginning of the pyramids, and they were the feet of giants.